2020 is kind of awful, but we're all holding on to a few higher hopes, maybe, for 2021, cautiously optimistic. Back to tell us all about their fondest hope for the coming year is Democratic strategist and council member at large of Montgomery County, Will Jawando, alongside Capitol Hill reporter for the Daily Caller, Henry Rogers, two great friends of the show. Great to see you guys again. Henry, let me start with you on this one. This isn't, I don't want predictions, right? Because I think any of us should be extraordinarily humble about making any sort of prediction for what is going to happen over the coming year. Those of us, at the beginning of January last year, we had no idea what was going to be in store for us over the coming year. So these aren't predictions. These are truly hopes, like things that are in the realm of possibility that, are reasonable to hope for, but certainly don't count quite as predictions or things you expect to happen. So what were you thinking of in this category, Henry?
Well, when I was asked about this, the first thing I thought of, and I've been saying this since the election and way before the election, actually, on this show and elsewhere, is I just really hope that this country can be less divided. I think that we all need to spend less time on social media and less time worrying about each other's political views and focus more on each other. I've had, personal losses, and I'm sure a lot of people have this year, and I think that we should all focus on those we love and those who we care about and family and close friends. And I think that's something we can all do and strive for. Spend less time on social media. Understand how blessed we all are to be here on this world, and understand how blessed we are to be in the situation we are in right now, to be employed, to have a job, to have family, to have friends. And for those who don't, just be optimistic and always look forward to the future, and know that there's people who have your back. There's people here for you. And really, my whole message here, I'm trying to, ramble on, but it's just, I really hope there's a less divided country moving forward in 2021. And I hope that we can all make that happen for everyone.
Yeah, that is definitely, I like it because, first of all, it's very aspirational. It's definitely not a prediction. It's very aspirational, but it's also something that's actionable that all of us have a bit of a role to play in. Well, you kind of set us up for this conversation in the last conversation. We're talking about the local level, the challenges that are facing all of us in whatever community we're living in right now for the coming year, but also the way that creates an opportunity. But how are you thinking about sort of your greatest hopes for the coming year and what you'd like to see improve?
Yeah, just quickly piggybacking, I think, practicing more empathy, this concept of radical empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. If you can't do it now, when are we going to do it as a people? I think the social justice movement we saw after the murder of George Floyd, that was many people waking up and saying, God, this is awful. This can't happen. People of all races and creeds, the response of our healthcare workers, New Yorkers lighting up and, in the early parts of the pandemic, singing outside. You saw really some of the great parts of humanity in our country through these multiple crises, these food lines, people who have donated, Chef Jose Andres, my constituent, and so many others. So there is silver lining in that we do have that ability to be empathetic, and we're going to need that if we're going to be less divided. And then I would say, yes, let's innovate. Who knew that we could do online school? It hasn't been perfect. Who knew that we could release people who have been incarcerated for low-level offenses for health and safety reasons? Who knew that we could connect with our family across the globe on something called Zoom? So I think there are a lot of things that we did this year in the midst of crises that we didn't think or know we could do. And I hope we take that same ingenuity and spirit into 2021 to try to solve and recover from this crisis.
Yeah, I love that. The things I was thinking about, because that's all I think about is politics, were sort of directly on the political level. And
sure.
Which I kind of like you guys is better, but whatever, you already said them, so I can't steal them at this point. But there was something that happened at the end of this year politically that gave me a little bit of hope, which is this moment when you had Bernie Sanders, Democratic socialist, left-wing boogeyman Bernie Sanders working together with Josh Hawley, who was a very strong supporter of Donald Trump, very strong Republican, on something that would actually be really good and important for the American people, which was direct stimulus checks. And look, we know how this ends now. It looks like McConnell successfully blocked the push for $2,000 checks. But let's not forget that, Democrats and Republicans, people like Mark Warner and Joe Manchin and like Mitt Romney had already negotiated this relief bill that had no checks whatsoever. And just from these two men with radically different political views in a lot of areas saying, no, we actually are going to not be afraid of getting tagged with, oh my God, you're working with a fascist, or oh my God, you're working with a socialist. We're going to actually work together on this thing. And they didn't accomplish all of what they wanted, but they significantly changed and pushed the conversation and at least got, it's, meager to celebrate, but at least got $600 checks into this bill when there was nothing in direct aid before. That gives me a little bit of hope because you have had for years now this just lockstep Republican orthodoxy, at least when Democrats are in power, about spending, but it's always, whether it's Democrats or Republicans in power, about spending on working class, ordinary Americans. And so even to see a little bit of a crack in that and a little bit of potential new political alliance forming, that was something to me very hopeful that happened here at the year end that I hope we may see a trend of now that that path is being sort of forged, that I hope we'll see a trend of moving forward. And obviously something that this show cares a lot about and focuses a lot on. Henry, what do you think of that?
I could not have said it better, Crystal. You said not to be political, but that if I was going to be political, that's exactly what I would have said and exactly what I would have focused on. Seeing that gave me hope. You obviously know that I'm for this $2,000 stimulus checks. I've been for the stimulus checks. I think that the Republicans need to, get that in their stupid heads right now because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the American people absolutely need it. So very well said, Crystal.
Well, guys,
I would
go ahead, Will.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say quickly, and if we win the Senate on January 5th, I actually think it's more likely that you'll see more of that because Joe Biden is going to come in with a 50-50 Senate and Kamala Harris the tie and really try to work with Republicans, and then they'll have an incentive to work together. So hopefully that can happen either way, but I think it's more likely if Georgia goes for the Democrats.
We shall see. Guys, I appreciate both of you always, but really want to thank you for your contributions to this show and this conversation this year. You guys both always bring so much to the table, and we really appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Thanks,
Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, David Serrett is going to give his thoughts about the stimulus debacle when Rising continues.